Hey there, YouTube. It's me again, Fragments of Memory. And this is another session of Armchair Philosophy 101. And the name of this one will be The OffendER or The OffendED. Which one are you? Now, a lot of folks are talking about how. Well, let me just start from the beginning before I start rambling. A lot of times, many people see themselves as the offender, or excuse me, the offended, as opposed to being the offender. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people consider themselves to be the one that's wronged. For example, a breakup happens, and the woman says, this man over here, he was a dirty dog. He was this, he was that, this, that, and the other thing, and the third, and the 33rd, and so on and so forth. But what she doesn't mention is all the dirty and foul and rank things that she did in the time of that relationship. She only talks about when that guy got all wrong and dirty and nasty or whatever the case might be. So she's quick to label him as foul and her as the victim. Or we'll flip it, because I'm not just going to pick on the women here. I'm going to talk about the fellas. The fellas may say, man, that woman is crazy. That woman's a bitch and all this other stuff. But we won't look at the fact that, hey, he did some foul stuff in his time too. And how often do we see that going on in other matters? Let's say somebody look at us crazy or curse us out, and we're like, oh man, how dare they curse us out? We're gonna jump on them for that. And the reality is, we were the jerks. We were the offender, and we had offended them, and of course they responded in kind. And of course people are like, well, how dare they do that to me? How dare they do that to me? But we'll be the first ones to do it to them as well. So as I talk about this, I just really think about it like, are we really as good as we like to paint ourselves out to be? A wise older man in my life once said to me, the hero of your story, or excuse me, the villain of your story is usually the hero of his own. And the more I think about that, I've often thought about that. Are we truly the hero of our story and yet the villain of somebody else's story? We're thinking we're doing the right thing. We're thinking we're doing the work of God in some cases. And in reality, we're a low down dirty devil. And we're like, oh, I would never do that horrible thing, but we do it all the time. We at times get rude. We at times curse people out. We at times offend. And sometimes we know it, and then sometimes we don't. But we bring that offense to the table. Are you the offender or the offended? And it's always quick for us to see the one, we always like to see ourselves as the one that's been wronged, but never the one that has done wrong. And even when we do wrong, we may acknowledge that we did wrong, but we always have a justification to back it up. Like, I wouldn't have been bad if so-and-so had been acting right. I wouldn't have been bad if so-and-so didn't do this, so I had to retaliate because I couldn't let him get the drop on me because he just got the drop on me, so I got to get the drop back on him harder and faster. And I've got to smear his name and make his name a little dirtier in the minds of people. So we instantly get on this sort of high horse, this sort of righteous indignation kick, and we say, yeah, man, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. And we never really say, what did you do? We never really answer the question of what did you do, because most of us don't want to see ourselves as the villain. Most of us don't want to actually go, hey, I was kind of foul in that situation. In fact, we kind of do that comparative evil. You know what I'm talking about? Comparative evil. It's where you go, I'm not as bad as so-and-so, because I may have done this, but at least I don't do that. For example, and there was a really good rap about this. A rapper, he was a Christian rapper, and he talked about that. Like, is that how we living now? Are we comparing ourselves to people that we think are worse than us to convince ourselves that we're not living foul? Like the liar says, hey, at least I don't steal. The thief says, at least I don't kill. The killer says, hey, at least I don't rape women. And then the rapist says, hey, at least I don't rape children. So it's like we keep doing that comparative evil. Like, I'm not bad because I'm not as bad as so-and-so. When in reality, all those things are bad. So again, I ask, are we the offender in a situation, or are we the offended? It's sort of like that Aaliyah song that came out. She did a song where the chorus was, who should be hurt or who should be blamed? And oftentimes in relationships in life, we kind of play that role of who should be hurt, who should be blamed. You know, am I supposed to change? Are you supposed to change? And that whole thing of, am I the one that's supposed to step up and make the first move and do the so-called right thing? Or are you? Or am I waiting for you to make the right move so I can still be justified in what I did and walk away feeling better than you, when in reality, we're either in the same boat or I'm worse off than you. But I love to see myself as the offended instead of the offender. These are just random thoughts that are kind of going through my mind. I was thinking about this on my way home tonight. I was just like, are we the offender or are we the offended? And too many times we don't stop and think that maybe, just maybe, in certain situations, we might actually be the offender. You know, you get into an argument with somebody and y'all get real heated and it gets tense. The situation is just intense. You go, how dare this person do this? And then you finally step back and have to say, well, was I wrong? Did I do the wrong thing? And that's going to take a little introspection. It's also going to take a little swallowing of some pride too. Just because a lot of us don't like to admit we're wrong. A lot of us want to stay on our little pedestal. You know, we make this little pedestal like this high and we want to stand on it like we're kings and queens and so-called goddesses and gods and all this other nonsense. And in reality, we're just like that person, or maybe even worse. A thought, just a thought, I think. Just, are we the offender? Are we the offended? And too many times, people like to see themselves as such, i.e. the offended and not the offender. So when you get into a situation, just think, am I the offended or am I the offender? And do I find more power in being the offended? And that way I don't have to change any of my negative qualities into positive ones. Well, that is all. Thank you so much. Please give me your opinions, your views. Thank you so much. Peace.